Alright, welcome back to the beanbag. Looking at a few more Star Trek figures. I'm going to move forward to the movies. First going to be Star Trek the Motion Picture. Now for the motion picture, they only ever made 5 figures. I have 4 of them plus a custom one that I made. Interesting enough, the only one I don't have is the regular Kirk that they made. They had Spock, which is in the uniform that he wore throughout most of the movie. There's McCoy, which this is actually one of my favorite head sculpts for McCoy. It was really well done, and the uniform in general is actually a really nice sculpt on all of these. They also did Sulu, which is this is actually one of the things I never understood. They made a Sulu, and despite the fact that Chekhov wore basically the exact same uniform, they could have easily used this exact same sculpt and switched out the head for a Chekhov. So yeah, as soon as I get a hold of another Sulu, I'm going to be popping the head on it and making a Chekhov one. And then there's Uhura. Again, they made a new sculpt entirely for this one. The other thing that's actually really interesting about the Uhura is it's the only one that actually has the little communicator wristwatch thing molded into the sculpt. I've always found that interesting. You'll notice the others, they didn't have them. I think most, if not all of them, came with a little clip-on one that never really fit properly. Because you can see none of their wrist is actually exposed in order to make that fit. Now, I did at one point took the body of this McCoy, popped it, and made the Kirk wearing the leisure outfit, the white shirt that's got the same V-neck, but there's no collar on this one. And it's got the same gray pants that all the command officers wear. So this is really the only custom that I made for that particular line of figures. Now, then they also, when Star Trek Generations came out, they made 3 of the crew wearing the monster maroon jackets. There was Kirk, Chekhov, and Scotty that they made. Like I said, it was for Generations, and those were the only 3 characters who actually appeared in the movie. Now, of course, the funny thing is that the Scotty was actually, the head is the exact same one that was used on this one, this is actually the Scotty that was made for the Next Generation Relics episode. But it still works for the movie uniform, because this is what Scotty wore basically when he wasn't on the bridge, when he was down in engineering working and that kind of thing. So this one still works for my line of movie figures. The rest of the ones that I have, I should mention that they did also do Picard wearing the same uniform, which the funny thing is, it's actually, the body is actually a complete copy from the Kirk figure. They just retooled the little rank insignia on the shoulder there. Now, I have taken and made 3 customs off of these. First and most obvious was Spock, which is basically just a head pop with a Captain Kirk. Then there's a Dr. McCoy. Again, it's a real basic head pop. Put that Dr. McCoy on there, and then painted the shirt and the sleeve pieces that green color. And then the last one being Sulu. Same thing, head pop, paint the shirt and the shoulder piece and the wrist piece here. And if you're wondering what that sound you're hearing, that is my dog sitting next to me grumbling. And so that is the Monster Maroon Star Trek 2 through 6 figures that I have and that were made. Now, they did make Lieutenant Savick at one point. In fact, funny enough, for a while, she was one of the few wearing the Monster Maroon out there, along with the Generations figures. And she's the only female character who's been made wearing that outfit, which has disappointed a lot of people because they never made Uhura or any of the other lady characters from the movies. And so a lot of people, they get that Lieutenant Savick and simply use it to make those. They then eventually did a Janeway from the Voyager episode Flashback wearing the Monster Maroon uniform, which it was a mail away, making it even harder to get. And it is one of the ones that's very expensive to get a hold of now. It's one of those I hope to get a hold of eventually. So that was it for those, and I figured I would go ahead and, since I don't really have a place to include them, it's the original pilot, The Cage. They did make a Captain Pike figure, kind of a standalone. They didn't make any of the other characters from The Cage. They were, as far as crew, they made Vina and the Telosian, which I'll show you those at another time, with the aliens. But as far as the crew, he's the only one of the crew that they ever made. I did, at one point, I took and made the First Officer, number 1, which is, was originally played by Majel Barrett. Rebecca Romaine's actually playing her in the new series, which I love her interpretation of the character. It's been really, really nice. But yeah, I took and sculpted this. It was Uhura's torso and arms, and I just had to resculpt the collar. And for the head, it was actually a Ambassador Loaxana Troy head that I had to cut all of that hair off. You know, she had her hair up in a big bouffant hairdo, and I cut all that off and sculpted this hairstyle onto it. And so that's it for those two. I do eventually intend to do some more of those. They did make, for the second pilot, Where No One Has Gone Before, they have made a Kirk, a Scotty, and a Sulu. Because they were the only characters who were in that second pilot. Oh, and Spock. The 4 of them, they have made in a uniform, which is sort of similar to this. But again, all but the Kirk, they were exclusives for like Spencer's or Hot Topic or something like that. And the Kirk came with the shuttlecraft Galileo, which is confusing because when he was wearing that uniform, he was never on the shuttlecraft. And the bad thing is it didn't come with the phaser rifles that was used only in that one episode, which was all actually just part of a publicity stunt that they did for the photo shoots in order to try and get people to watch the show and make it seem more action-based, was those big rifles. You know, if you watch the show, you'll never see the rifles after that first episode, which is kind of amusing. So that's it for this one. Thanks for joining me, and check me out next time.